Welcome to datascience.show, the podcast where data science meets executive leadership. We talk with top AI and analytics thought leaders about turning data into real business impact. If you're a C-level leader or data expert shaping the future, you're in the right place.
I'm your host, Mirko Peters. We explore how data science and AI drive real business impact straight from the leaders making it happen. Today, from insight to action, a C-level playbook for building enterprise data literacy. In the next 22 minutes, I'll walk you through a practical framework for diagnosing gaps, prioritizing cohorts, embedding learning into workflows, and measuring impact so your models actually change decisions. This matters now because companies that treat literacy as an afterthought waste models, budget, and trust. By the end, you'll have 2 concrete next steps to start turning data competence into repeatable capability.
Before we dive in, picture a typical enterprise guest I often talk to, the chief data officer at a global retailer, accountable for a 150-person analytics organization, responsible for product analytics, supply chain models, and personalization at scale. They have executive sponsorship, a roadmap full of models, and a frustrated set of business partners who still don't trust or use the outputs consistently. That mismatch between model performance and business adoption is where literacy wins or fails. I'll use that profile as our running example through the playbook.
First, diagnose the gap. Start with decisions, not dashboards. Ask, which high-value decisions depend on data today and which ones will within 12 months? Map decision owners, decision cadence, and the data or model that influences each decision. Score each decision on 2 dimensions: consequence of getting it wrong and current literacy of the decision owner. That 2x2 gives you high-impact targets where literacy creates immediate risk reduction or revenue upside. Resist the urge to run org-wide workshops before you've completed this mapping. Generic training rarely moves these scores.
Second, prioritize cohorts by role and decision type. Executives need concise signal reading skills and governance awareness. Frontline managers need interpretation and operational troubleshooting. Analysts and data engineers need rigorous modeling hygiene and product thinking. Design curricula to fit the job, not a one-size-fits-all learning platform. For the CDO in our example, the first pilot targeted regional merchandising leads and the inventory planning team, teams making daily replenishment decisions, where small forecasting improvements materially reduce stockouts and markdowns.
Third, embed learning into workflows. Learning that lives only in a learning management system rarely transfers. Instead, build micro-practice loops. Pair a 2-hour workshop with a week-long coaching sprint. Add decision templates into the existing meeting cadence, and instrument a simple feedback loop that shows how a data-informed decision performed. In the merchandising pilot, we replaced a monthly slide review with a 2-part play. A 5-minute data checklist presented by the manager, followed by a short retrospective on what the data suggested versus what happened. That small ritual changed behavior faster than any LMS completion report.
Fourth, design role-specific curricula with clear outcomes. For executives, a 1-evening briefing that explains assumptions, failure modes, and governance triggers. The goal is better questions and faster escalation when models break. For managers, hands-on playbooks and decision templates tied to their KPIs. For analysts, code reviews, observability basics, and a product spec template that forces connection to business intent. Each curriculum needs an observable behavior at the end, a signed-off decision template, a live model interpretation session, or a post-implementation review showing impact. Fifth, measure the right things. Completion rates and quiz scores are easy but misleading. Tie success metrics to decision quality, decision turnaround time, the number of decisions that used model outputs, error rates before and after adoption, and business KPIs like revenue per store or forecast accuracy. In our retail pilot, we tracked forecast error at the SKU region level and the time from signal to replenishment. Within 3 months, the teams that adopted the playbooks reduced stockouts by 18% and shortened decision cycles by nearly 30%. That's the kind of metric that pays for continued investment. Now the trade-offs and common pitfalls. Trade-off 1, speed versus depth. Quick, lightweight interventions scale fast but leave gaps. Deep programs build durable skills but are costly and slow. Mitigation, pilot lightweight, but pair with targeted depth for mission-critical cohorts. Trade-off 2, centralized programs versus distributed coaching. Centralization gives standards. Distribution gives contextual relevance. Mitigation, a hub-and-spoke model. Central standards, certified coaches embedded in lines of business. Trade-off 3, certification versus practice. Certifications provide signals but don't guarantee behavior change. Mitigation, require applied assessments tied to live decisions. Leadership and funding. Executive sponsorship must be explicit and continuous. A data literacy program is not a one-off HR initiative. It's a capability investment. Sponsors should own outcomes tied to business KPIs and be accountable for adoption. Fund the program like any transformation. Seed pilots with central funds, then transition to business unit budgets when you can demonstrate measurable return. Use incentive levers. Include data use metrics in performance reviews for roles that depend on data-driven decisions, and make part of vendor contracts contingent on integration and explainability standards. Governance and risk. Literacy reduces risk when it's paired with clear guardrails. Define who can operationalize models, under what conditions models require human override, and what escalation paths look like when model outputs are anomalous. Instrument decision logs so you can trace why a decision used or ignored a model. That traceability is central to both learning and accountability. In regulated settings, those logs are also part of compliance, so literacy and governance are tightly coupled. Looking forward, a sustained literacy capability changes how you source talent, select vendors, and design products. Vendors that only hand you models without training and operational integration will be increasingly expensive to maintain. Teams that can evaluate vendor assumptions and run simple integration tests will have negotiating leverage. Expect skill mixes to shift. More coaches and analytics translators embedded in lines of business. Fewer centralized generalists doing ad hoc interpretation. Prepare for that change by defining new career paths and incentivizing time spent on coaching and embedded work. Practical advice for the next 12 to 24 months. 1. Run a focused pilot on one high-impact decision area with a measurable KPI and a business sponsor. 2. Create a lightweight decision template and require a short post-decision review. Those 2 steps will surface both training needs and governance gaps quickly. From there, move to a phased rollout using hub-and-spoke coaching and KPIs tied to decision quality. 2 final takeaways. First, treat literacy as capability building, not compliance. Embed practice into workflows and measure decision outcomes. Second, align funding and incentives to the business outcomes literacy is meant to unlock. When you do this, models stop being an interesting experiment and start delivering consistent value. That's the difference between models and value. Final reflection. Building enterprise data literacy is organizational design. It sits at the intersection of education, product, and governance. It requires executive attention, targeted interventions, and measurement that ties back to business outcomes. Start small, measure what matters, and scale what works. If you want a playbook, map your decisions first and pick the one with the highest mix of consequence and low current literacy. That's where you'll see impact fastest. If you found this episode valuable, subscribe and share it with your network. And let's connect on LinkedIn. I'm Mirko Peters. We'll be back with more conversations on how data science and AI create real business impact. Until next time.
Thanks for listening to datascience.show. If you found value in this episode, subscribe, share it with your network, and join us next time as we explore how data science drives smarter decisions and better business outcomes.